This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. That's USAPrepares.com. Alex is producing the broadcast in Minnesota. There's a link to all of your instructors on the website, USAPrepares.com. Converging threats, confronted daily by our instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli. Tony Pichet is with us. Tony Pichet has been to all of our Get Prepared Expos. And we're going to talk about the parallels between South Africa and what's happening right here, right now, today, in the United States of America. He's a man who was there. He was in South Africa. And he's going to tell us what lies ahead. He's serious. He was there. USAPrepares.com instructor Tony Pichet. You're going to meet him at the Get Prepared Expo, July 19, 20, and 21. He's going to be presenting seminars on your survival, long-term food storage. And why does he talk about things like that? Because he was there and he knows what it's like. He was in South Africa. Tony came to the USA in 1999. He's an American citizen, and he wants to share with us what he saw, the social degradation, disintegration of the continent of Africa. The signs are the same. Many of them are the same. Right here in the U.S. today. Welcome, Tony Pichet.
Hey, good morning, Vinny. And,
Tony,
good to be back on your show.
Tony, I think we're going to wipe some smiles off faces today because you're going to share with us what really happened. This isn't just a couple guys sitting around the kitchen table sipping coffee and talking about some book we read. Right. You were there. You were there.
Yeah,
Tony,
obviously born and raised second generation, my wife third generation South Africans. We came to America by choice because we left South Africa because there was no future for, well, we perceived at that time, no future for our family. Today, Rhodesia, 30 years later, is used to be called the breadbasket of Africa, is now holding its hand out and controlled for the last 30 years by a tyrant. And it's social fascism, if there's such a word. So anyway, the reason I'm on your show, Vinny, as a volunteer, as all your other folks are, is obviously because I'm trying to wake your audience up, people I speak to, and I'm not doing this out of choice. I would much rather do the things I love to do, my wife and myself, but I'm doing this because I feel the same symptoms of people being willfully ignorant, being in denial, procrastination, believing what they hear on the media or from the so-called authorities that they believe is taking care of them, are just deceiving and lying and seducing exactly as the governments, particularly of South Africa, the old and the new, did the seduction, the lying, and the deceiving, and had laws in place to do what they wanted. Exactly in America, they've got laws in place to do what they wanted. I just read the book on the Dollarites and their rabbits, and I'm ashamed that America would actually do this to an ordinary, middle-of-the-road, genuine, down-to-earth American family. But because there's laws in place, they can, if they want to enforce it. And if you look at what's written, laws are written, even in this latest Obamacare, I think the average American will have the snot wiped off his face if he really understands these draconian laws that are in place to indefinite detention, to all sorts of things, exactly what we had in South Africa. They have, I believe they're willfully asleep. So I'm on your show, Vince, but not as a happy and sharing a message of anything. I'm here under stress. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And I hope it doesn't come across with the wrong tone or the wrong intention, but it's because I'm concerned for the people that live here. So that's
Tony,
what I wanted to say.
Tony, you said you're here under stress, but not under duress.
Yes.
Yes. Class, what Tony's trying to say, correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, you and I are frustrated. We go out and we talk and we meet people and we're in public events. We're all over Springfield and the Ozarks. We speak before groups, and we come home and we kind of commiserate. We talk to each other and say, I don't get it. You know, why are there so few of us that seem to understand exactly what's happening? Why are there so few of us who are actually doing something about it? And you know, last night we had a packed house at the meetup at Ziggy's.
Okay.
And I was really delighted to see that. And I was surprised, and I'll tell you why I was surprised, because ever since I was not invited to come back to the AM radio station that Rush Limbaugh broadcasts on in Springfield, Missouri, ever since I was not invited to come back, I expected that our meetup turnout would decline.
Okay.
And it would keep declining and declining, and eventually it would just dissolve. The exact opposite has happened. The exact opposite. The number of people at the meetups has increased since I have been removed from being on the air or not invited back. So that was reassuring. But, you know, we only have, you know, over 100 people at the meetup. There should be 10,000. Yep. There should be. You should not be able to get through any of those intersections within 4 blocks of Ziggy's because of the things that we talk about. And last night we talked about, you know, there are preppers, and I really don't like that word because it's, you know, it sounds like doomsday preppers, and I certainly don't like the word doomsday.
Me neither.
But I really don't. I like the term survivalist because it's taboo. The government doesn't want us to use that. It makes us seem like bad people because we have what we need before we need it. You know, we're not a bunch of people going out beating up people. We're not thugs. We just understand that if we have a vehicle and we're going to keep that vehicle for a long time, buying a case of oil filters at $1.76 each makes a lot more sense than buying them for $8, $9, and $10 per oil filter, one at a time. So, I mean, that's just the way we live. You buy in bulk, and I buy in bulk because we know we're going to need it. We don't do it and then throw it away. We buy it because we need it, and it's cheaper. But anyway, that's kind of our lifestyle. But the point is, there should have been 10,000 people there last night. You know, under normal circumstances, it certainly exceeded my expectations, and people are hungry. Tony, they don't let me go. I got out really early last night. I got home just before midnight. That was early for me. It really was. So they're hungry for information, but they're not enough of us. That's the point, I guess. I'd like to share something with you, Tony. I was listening to radio last night on the way home in the vehicle. Normally, I don't listen to the radio, but I was listening to a guy by the name of Michael Weiner. Michael Weiner. He trades by the name of Michael Savage, and he was talking about Zimmerman, and he said, you know, he was ordered by the dispatcher, you know, not to get out of his car. Well, first of all, the dispatcher didn't order anybody to do anything. I heard the audio of the dispatcher. The dispatcher did not said he didn't need to do that. But the dispatcher never said, stay in your car, don't get out of your car. And the dispatcher, by the way, has no authority over anybody to do anything. Right. So, and sometimes dispatchers are just civilians. Sometimes dispatchers aren't even officers of the law. They're not always peacekeepers. So that's one thing. Another thing is, he said that Zimmerman was looking to kill somebody that night. How do we know that? How do we know that? We don't know that. And what's happening is, boy, just because someone's behind a microphone doesn't mean he or she is telling the truth. And that's what I'm hearing more and more and more, and it's making me angry, Tony.
I agree, because, honestly, the average American either believes what he hears on the radio, on the tubes, even in the church today. They believe what they hear out of the pulpit, and they're not doing their own due diligence. They're not looking at the facts that is presented to them, and I think they've lost the ability to discern and make their own decisions, even though they claim they do, which is why it's so easy to divide and conquer in the U.S. You're absolutely right, and I believe the vast majority of these radio talk show hosts, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I believe that they've all got their own little agendas, whether it is to promote an ideology or to promote an alternative lifestyle, or whether it's just another disguise to seduce you and get you riled up for the wrong reasons. You've got a good point there, Vinny.
And let me just hammer this point, just one with one more stroke of the hammer. Last night on the same broadcast, they have commercials, and there are two big stations in Springfield, Missouri, that are non-religious. And I was on one of them, and I was listening to the other one across town. And they had a bunch of people that I know wishing everybody a happy holiday. And I'll tell you what they said. So one at a time, these advertisers came on and said, "Happy 4th of July." Another guy, "Happy 4th of July." Another gal, "Happy 4th of July. Wishing you a happy 4th of July." And it went on and on and on. Now, I know how radio works. What they did, the advertising department called these advertisers up and said, "Hey, listen, for $50, we'll play this commercial per day for you, and you can wish everybody a happy 4th of July." Well, that's like saying, "Happy December 25th. It's Independence Day. It is not the 4th of July. There is no such holiday as the 4th of July. It's Independence Day.
Correct.
And what I'm saying, Tony, is that's what the media is doing. They are changing the way we think about things, because they don't want us to think about independence, because that's what we are in the fight of our lives for right now. Our independence and our liberty. Tony Pache, Down to Earth Foods, Springfield, Missouri. I'm going to give you his phone number several times if you want to call him. We'll be right back. Yeah, I just looked at the calendar. I can't believe it. My calendar that I got at the farm supply store here in Missouri. They give out calendars once a year to their valued customers. And it says that the 4th of this month, July 4, is Independence Day, and it has it in English and in Spanish. I can't believe it. Why does it have it in Spanish? Come on. Anyway, we're falling down. We are falling down, class. So, Tony Pache of Down to Earth Foods in Springfield, Missouri, is with us. And I'm going to give the phone number, and if you'd like to call him, why don't you call him after the broadcast? We're going to be on for 2 hours today. It's 417-501-1054. 417-501-1054. That's the number for Down to Earth Foods.
And Vinny, if the line is busy, I will call them back. They just leave a message.
Oh, sure. And what might happen is you might get his answering machine, and if that's the case, after about 5 rings, he will call you back. So just a thought. By the way, Tony's going to be at the Get Prepared Expo. You're going to get a chance to meet him. Now, how many people do you think that you can meet that have gone through the turmoil, the resistance, the theft of an 8,200-acre family farm at gunpoint? How many people do you think have gone through that? That's who Tony Pache and his family are. His wife's family was stolen. His wife's family's farm was stolen at gunpoint. At gunpoint. Now imagine what it might be like if all of a sudden armed people show up at your house and say, it's pretty nice. You've done a great job. You got 24 hours to get out, or we're going to kill you. Tony, is that what happened?
Yep. In fact, one of the links I sent you last night shows you in 2009, 10, and 11, that's 30 years later, this is still happening. Out of the 4,000 farmers, there's less than 300 left, and one by one, they're picking them off. The link I sent you actually shows a home video of the farmer trying to resist, and he gets the snot beaten out of him. So, yep, whether you jailed because of the law or, yeah, it's still going on, Vinny. And the majority of the people are in denial that live in the country, or they're so broken down now, they just say, oh, well, there's no hope, we just have to comply. And that, again, back to those similarities, you know. That's exactly where this country's heading. And like I did at Ziggy's, when I showed you the timeline of 20 years later and 30 years later, people, the next generation gets taught at school that those people were in the wrong. And then the kids end up actively turning against those people that were standing up to do what is right. That this evil that is coming, or that is in this country, in fact, it's in the administration, and the laws are being made for it, and the police forces, federal police forces are being set up, and FEMA and all these sort of things. It's coming down. I wish I had half a day to just put a little bit in my mind of what I'm observing taking place here, and the people are showing the same symptoms of lack of belief, denial, willful ignorance, stubborn independence. This will not happen because this is America, and oh my goodness, just what else? You know, my family's here. I can't leave. I don't want to leave. I didn't come here to leave. That's what I'm trying to do, is just speak one-on-one to people that are interested in not just gathering information, but doing something, Vinny. You've been doing this for a couple of years at Ziggy's and on the radio, and, you know, we can count the people on one hand that are actively doing something about it. The second hour, we hopefully will get into talking about community or gathering, standing together, and why it's not happening. Same sort of things. We had pockets in South Africa that stood together, and when there was rolling mass action in the 80s, they managed to withstand it. But in terms of protecting and guarding the country, failed because there was not enough people. And the same thing's happening here, you know.
Not enough people, and we're outgunned, surrounded, and they're using our money to do it. Tony Pache, USAPrepares.com instructor. I'm Vincent Finelli. We'll be right back. Tony Pache and I are talking about the similarities between South Africa, what he experienced when his wife's family's farm, 8,200 acres, was stolen at gunpoint, and the family had 24 hours to get out with their lives. An outrageous situation. And we're looking at the theft of America right here. We're looking at the economic theft. We're looking at inflationary theft. We're looking at tax theft. We're under siege. We're absolutely under siege. And on Thursday, Independence Day, think about that. Think about what our founding fathers gave up for us, and what we're just going to, you know what we're going to do? We're going to sit around and we're going to have barbecue, we're going to have hamburgers and hot dogs, and we're going to drink beer, and we're going to talk about how hard life is. But yet, we're not going to get up and defend her. We're not going to defend her. Why? We're a bunch of pansies. It really makes me angry. Tony, I was at a traffic light heading to the meetup a couple of weeks ago, and right next to me was this really, really, really expensive, shiny, brand new, fully decked out vehicle with dark, dark, dark windows. It was a law enforcement vehicle. Brand new. They're all brand new. They all have these brand new vehicles. I remember back in the 1960s, 70s, 80s when the peace officers had older vehicles with really uncomfortable Spartan interiors, hardly any accessories at all. The absolute minimum, little tiny hubcaps. I mean, big engines, but everything else, and good suspension, but everything else was as cheap as you could get it. And that's what they drove. Not anymore. I was driving a 1999, my newest vehicle, 14 years older than this brand new law enforcement assault weapon.
Yeah. Just curious, was it a GM product?
This one happened to be a Dodge. This was a Dodge Charger that could probably outrun 95% of, probably 99% of the vehicles on the road, whether they be Ferrari, Lamborghini. It didn't matter. I mean, this thing was fully decked out.
I know that.
I mean, it was really, really expensive. And that's what they're using, our money to do this. And people are thinking this is okay. Tony, I am so upset because I know young people who are enrolled in these programs, these cadet programs, where they are where they're indoctrinating young people about, hey, let's go, we'll do some cruising on Friday night. We'll show you how bad it is, and we'll go pick up some drunks, and we'll go beat them up, and we'll arrest them, and we'll put them in the drunk tank. And so these young people are getting exposed to, it's really bad out there. It's really bad out there. But that's only a few % of the people. The rest of us are doing okay. We're being nice. We're behaving. We're not causing problems. So young people are being indoctrinated just as they were in Nazi Germany.
Yes, sir. In fact, I know some people that have just recently been on ride-alongs with...
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
As a result, they now want to sign up and join the state police and so on. And I also know some people in the police force right now that are good people. They are more mature, and they have privately spoken to me about the same concerns that you just addressed, that young people are coming in, they're going to be twisted and indoctrinated, and I think they'll be assimilated into the DHF and derivatives of the DHS, you know. They'll either go on to becoming SRT team members or whatever, but this new federal police of the DHS is I'm afraid going to become the new law enforcement of the country, of the nation. You, just back up a second, Vinny. You were talking about Independence Day.
Yes.
Please bear in mind the similarities that I'm talking about in South Africa. I'm English speaking, okay? In South Africa, the Afrikaners fought the British in a guerrilla war, and they actually were winning the war until the British captured the children and the women, put them in internment camps, and 1 million of them died during the Boer War. The Boer government, the Afrikaner government, ended up running the country, and they did a gosh darn good job in spite of legislating apartheid, which I don't agree with. We've had that discussion. But today, the Afrikaner people are the people that are 20 years later, as a majority, being hunted and decimated, and it's stage 7, the end of stage 7, bordering on the last stage 8 of genocide that Dr. Stanton speaks of, and that is exactly the same stages that are coming to America, except that it's not the Afrikaner people in America. It's going to be the white family man that is going to become marginalized, become the enemy against capitalism, against his Christian faith, whether he's a traditionalist or whether he's evangelical or fundamental, it doesn't matter, but if he's got the label Christian, he's the target of who these people are that are in schools, governments, universities today indoctrinating people that the family is not good, that capitalism is not good, that Christianity is not good, and Israel's not good. All these things that used to be upheld, including Independence Day, that was held in high regard by American people, is now suddenly becoming vilified, and those people are becoming marginalized, and by the time, we're in probably stage 2 or 3 now, so by the time we get to stage 7, these people are going to be hunted and killed, and the people will love it. That's what's going on right now.
Tony, as I hear your words, I'm thinking about the frustration with even the church. Even the church has backed down. Even the church is not talking about these issues. Even the church will not come. Tony, I I got a call one day from a pastor in Springfield, Missouri, and he was quite taken aback by my claim that pastors are greedy, and the churches are businesses, and that the pastors will not give up one day a week to help their people get physically prepared by bringing his church. A pastor will not, no pastor will bring his church to the Get Prepared Expo, even if I were to pay their way, okay? Even if I paid their admittance to the expo. What I'm saying is they will not give up 1/52nd of a year, one weekend's revenue from the collection plate to say, you know what, we do a good job 51 weeks a year. Let's get you spiritually prepared 51 weeks a year. But 1 week, let's go to the Get Prepared Expo and teach you how you can survive. And we'll still be a church after all this mess is still over. Not one pastor would do that. Well, this one guy called me up and he said, oh, yeah, I will. And I said, okay, I'll see you at the meetup on Monday.
Yeah.
He didn't show up.
Well,
So
Vinny,
Tony,
I don't want to
everywhere.
bash the churches, but let me tell you two things. One is most of the churches in America are 501c3s, okay? And that sets a precedent. Another thing is that how they are taught through the seminaries today and who's allowed to teach in the pulpit, there's secular humanism, there's all sorts of things going on in the church today that I agree in principle that the churches are lost. They're not speaking the truth as God would have them teach it. And unfortunately, a lot of the people, the Bible calls them sheep, are being led astray because of what's coming through the pulpits. I have a home cell group. We minister in this Springfield area to so many people that have been hurt by the church, Christians that have or are turning their hearts against God because of what they see in the churches, and that's disgusting. But with regard to how we are as a homogeneous people, trying to help prepare for our tomorrows, the church does play its part, and I would be willing. That's my passion. I would be willing to step up and help in that regard. This is my frustration in helping people just see that, guys, you need to just get your act together. Time is running out. The clock is ticking. And not all the people I speak with are Christians. There's a huge portion that don't, but they want to know what's coming and they want to see and be prepared. But there are very, very, very few that actually want to work at getting together. And hopefully we can explore that a bit more in the next hour about standing up together. Because if we don't, only so many people can hide out in the open and get away with it. 99% of people won't be able to do that, and there is no other alternative. I really hope that your listeners and the people we come in contact with will rather do what they can rather than say why they can't. There seems to be too much amongst the, as you call it, the prepper community or the survivors that tells you why it can't happen versus how it can happen, and they make plans accordingly. Or I'm going to tighten up my castle because I can't trust so and so, or I'm going to hide my stuff because I can't do this and I don't have these resources. There are poor people in Africa that can stick together. There are poor people in America that can stick together. You don't need that amount of money. Lots of people sticking together in little places collectively can get by. It's more to do with the heart than it is the actions, Vinny. What we're offering people is learn from history, look at history, and make plans to stick together. Don't just cower in a corner and get overcome with fear and these people like you were talking about earlier that profit on fear and on radio talk show hosts that think that that's the only alternative. No, these radio talk show hosts are not the only alternative. There is the truth out there. You just got to find it, stick to your values, have your integrity, get your ethics right, and stand on what you believe. That's all. That's what I'm trying to do, help people to do just those three things. Stand on what you believe, know it to be the truth, and team up. Get plans, stand together. And it is disappointing when I come to Ziggy's and I ask the question, how long have you been together? So many years, and how are you sticking together? And there's just that deer in the headlights look. People are not sticking together. So I don't know how you overcome it, but all I can do is just keep repeating the same thing and saying, guys, the clock is ticking. Please make plans.
Tony, two subject matters I don't discuss on the radio.
Okay.
One of them is sex, and the other one is race.
Okay.
When we come back, I want to talk for just a moment about race and how it applies to you and those who lived on your wife's family farm, 8,002 acres. I'd like to talk about race for just a couple minutes. Tony Pache, USAPrepares.com. You're going to get a chance to meet him at the Expo, July 19, 20. Class, Tony Pache is with us, and he's going to be with us for the second hour of USAPrepares.com. He was in Africa, South Africa, and he saw the collapse, he saw the takeover, and I just want to mention race for just a minute. It's something that we don't normally talk about. On Tony Pache's wife's family farm, it was 8,200 acres, and there were many races there, okay? And it was race independent. Everyone worked together. There were many families that built a community. It was like a city, or a town. It was kind of like a town that everyone worked together. Tony, how many families were involved in this 8,200 acre farm?
Sher's family had a farm manager to help run the other farm. They were co-joined, these 8,200 acres, and there were about 80-plus families living on the farm. Her dad had built homes for them, brick homes. They had a clinic. They had a school run by the teachers, but the school buildings and all that were put up by the parents. It was like a little community. Sure remembers as a kid playing with the kids of the laborers. They were laborers, but they were second or third generation on the farm. Families that had just descended and continued to live on the farm. When Sher's parents were kicked off the farm, the new occupiers, let me just say that, came in and kicked those families off and put them on the side of the street. And to the best of their knowledge, they all died within a few short years of being kicked off. And this has happened to tens of thousands that were kicked off the farms. This is just not a one story. That's racial, in a sense that the two classes, socialism is the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, that just decided to kick them off and put their own cadres on the farm. They know nothing about running a farm or even growing the farms. And today, those farms are derelict. The tobacco barns have been pulled down. It's just disgusting. In South Africa, let me just say this about a racial thing quickly too. I was in the military, as you know, and we were involved in selection and training of people, and they were of color, of many tribes. In fact, in my period of tenure, we trained two battalions. One is 4-2 Battalion, and the other one is a group called Kufut. And they were predominantly black people and Bushman trackers. And today, those people have either been killed, hunted, or marginalized, and they live in a derelict desert area called Pomfret. And they are discarded by society in South Africa today, the same as those rural people today are discarded. It's one of the videos I sent you, are discarded by society in Zimbabwe today. And if, people turn a blind eye, it's black-on-black violence. No, this is tribal, this is race, this is just disgusting. Sure, we we had black friends, in spite of apartheid, living illegally because it was legislated a white man and a black woman couldn't be. We had black friends in Port Elizabeth, where we were from, and we had to do it in secret because of the law, but we did it. And my point is, you can make a plan. People are humans; they're human beings. They're not inhuman. They're not something else. So I'm not sure what you mean about race and where this is going for America in that context, but there was race being used as a weapon for the new regime and for the old regime.
The reason I don't talk about race, class, is it's used to divide people. It's used to divide people. And what we just explained is race was inconsequential. It was uniting people in Tony's family farm. We're going to talk about community building when we come back with Tony Pache, USAPrepares.com. Everyone all set, cocked, locked. This is hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. And we're talking about the parallels between what happened with Tony Pache in South Africa and his wife's family and their family farm, the 8,200 acres. And we were talking about race, something that we don't talk about because race is used to divide people. And on the farm that we're talking about, race was uniting people, okay? Everyone worked together, and it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. So that's why we don't talk about race, because the media uses race to divide us. They use political parties to divide us. We don't do that here at USAPrepares.com. Tony Pache and I are talking about community. And Tony, I wanted to share with you a telephone call I received yesterday, and then let's talk about community building. This was a very interesting call. Just before the meetup, before I was leaving for the meetup yesterday, after the morning broadcast, but before I left the farm for Springfield, I received a call from Drury University. Now, Drury University is a major educational institution in the United States, and a lady called me up, and she's from Drury, and she is building an emergency management degree program. Tony Pache, have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Well, this is amazing. Very interesting. So they're building this emergency management degree program. And she called me because she wanted to be at the Get Prepared Expo. She wanted Drury University to be there. Now, I'm speaking of this for a very, it relates to what we're talking about, Tony. Okay. Her organization is working with the Greene County, which is the county that Springfield, Missouri is in. They're working with the Greene County Emergency Management Agency, the Springfield Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and the Red Cross. They're all working together. All of these, we'll call them government and quasi-government organizations. They're all working together to build this degree program. Okay. And so she asked me about the expo, and I said, she indicated she wanted to come to the expo as an exhibitor. And I said, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think you'll feel very comfortable here. As a matter of fact, I don't think anyone's going to like it if you were to show up. Because, and I explained how the Red Cross wanted to come to the expo, and then they pulled out, and at the last minute they were told to stand down by Washington. They said, don't get involved with Finelli. The Missouri National Guard, Missouri Guard was told the same thing. The Civil Air Patrol was told the same thing, and the Red Cross, all from Washington, D.C. So I explained to her that, we've had a real bad experience, and we're not interested in having them come. She wanted to know if there was a charge. She wanted to know if we would charge them to show up, as if this is a free event, right, for us to put on, and they're the government, right, or they're the education institution, and they're kind of wondering, is there a charge for this? Unbelievable. Anyway, yes, there's a charge. But here's the point. After she was telling me about all these things that they want to do, I said, tell me, what would somebody with this degree this new degree know how to do? And she said, well, we're involved in assessing the situation and determining the type of response, and we'll have professionals. Basically, these are report takers. That's what they're training. They're training people in report taking. I said, why don't you hire me? Now, that was a facetious question because I had never worked for them.
Right.
She said, you know what she said? She said, well, you don't have a degree. You don't have a master's degree. And I said, well, actually, I do. I do have a master's. I have an MBA, a master's in business administration. She said, well, you don't have a master's in emergency management. I said, you're absolutely right. I do not. And neither does anyone else.
Right.
There's no such thing.
Yeah.
Tony, these people are involved in make work. They are not going to be able to help us prepare for anything. I said, you need people that actually know how to do stuff rather than teach people how to take reports.
Yeah.
I'm just venting. Okay, so here we are. These are people who are just more leeches. They're building more government leeches.
I think there's a deeper motive to it. Okay. I think they're pulling a parallel type prepper movement that is wanting to get people prepared. Let me just say that. But this is a government-sanctioned type thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the CERT program,
yes,
which is put on the same as FEMA is looked at as being a good thing to help you. But everybody who knows anything about the history of FEMA knows that you stay away from them. Because when the government puts its hand in what it's trying to do to help the people end up being hurt. Just in that regard about Drury and trying to help and do all these degrees and programs, I decided earlier this year that I would do, just for the sake of seeing how it works, I would go and join the CERT program, C-E-R-T. Have you heard of that, Vinny?
Yes, it's the Community Emergency Response.
Correct.
Team.
So I signed up for that along with somebody else and decided, well, we'll go and see how it looks. At least we will get good information that if we need to respond, we will go and respond. The long and the short of it is they canceled it twice. The third time we went there to start because they had holidays or they had some other things coming in, and this was a full class, and it was held at MSU. They canceled it twice, and the third time we arrived to attend the first class, and 30 minutes later, the lecturer hadn't arrived. So I sent a stinking email to the administrator and to the organizer saying that my time is important to me, and if this is the way you run the CERT program to be emergency prepared, God help us. And I didn't get a reply. I just received a cancellation notice that my name is removed from their database. So I said, okay. But let that be as a warning to people that if you sign up for these things, I think you have a point about it being a work program, but it's a data mining program. And exactly the same parallel, by the way, is being set up with these farmers markets. People are looking at farmers markets as if it is an innocuous thing where farmer A can go and grow their product and go and sell it at these institutions. I don't know if you're aware of this, but these farmer markets are actually being undergirded by federal funds to offer cheap money to farmers to grow products and get high tunnels and all these sorts of things. And it's going to turn on them in a few years, watch. But there's a parallel market going up for farmers markets. They're not as free and as enterprising and entrepreneurial as they think they are, because this is being overshadowed by what the government is doing, Vinny. Same as the draconian stuff that happened in South Africa with the apartheid government, and now with this new ANC government in power, with the new laws, exactly the same thing is happening here, sir.
Tony, you mentioned hour number one, you mentioned the word dollar height, and I'm not sure if our class understood what you were saying. Let me spell it for you. DOLLARHITE. That's a family last name. USA prepares instructors John Dollarheight of Dollar Value Computer and Judy Dollarheight of Dollar Value Computer. They raised rabbits, and they were investigated and overrun by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They were fined $6 million for raising rabbits in in Missouri, and they stood face to face with the federal government, told them to take a hike, and actually it went to the U.S. Congress, and the Dollar-Hite family won. And Judy Dollar-Hite wrote a book. It's called Going Down the Multi-Million-Dollar Rabbit Hole. And she's an author. She's a brand new author. And she's going to be sharing, autographing, and signing those books at the Get Prepared Expo. And she's going to be presenting seminars. You know, what we have, the Dollar-Hite family, the Pichet family, Tony, I'm talking about patriots. That's what I'm talking about. You're standing up and you're exposing and you're talking about the truth. But you mentioned the farmers market, and we're talking this hour is about community. The farmers market. Judy Dollar-Hite went to a community meeting. There was a farmers market in Ozark, Missouri, and the Springfield Farmers Market came in with these committee members, and they usurped authority. They took authority they did not have. They took over the farmers market in Ozark. They are now controlling it, and now the farmers who were selling as a loosely organized group of farmers just growing and selling produce at fair prices, organic produce, has been taken over by Springfield, Missouri, and it was without a shot. Judy Dollar-Hite was there. She was on KY3 television. They interviewed her. She's absolutely livid, furious, standing up for other people's rights. I mean, she has no dog in this fight. Okay, none. And she's standing up. And the people who used to run the farmers market, they gave up their authority to run their own farmers market. They gave it up without a shot being fired, without any yelling, screaming, fist fight, nothing. They just gave up. I'll tell you what, I can't stand it. We have lost a sense of community, Tony, and what we need to do is use guerrilla tactics. We need to go after these guys. We need to point them out. I'm probably going to get disconnected from the radio for saying these things. Whenever I do this kind of stuff, I lose packets going to Genesis. But we need to start guerrilla tactics, and we need to point them out. We need to say, here's their phone number, here's their cell phone number, here's where they live, here's their house. We need to stop in front of their house. We need to look at their house and then drive on. And eventually they'll get the message that, you know what, this is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. We need to back off. These people are in our face. They're stealing from us, Tony.
I agree. They're overtaking it. You know, Vinny, even the word community, honestly, has been taken over, like the word gay has been taken over.
Yeah, there's nothing gay about it.
Exactly, and it means something different, okay? Community, I watched a PBS program a few months ago called A Sense of Community, and the general ethos of the subject was moderation, tolerance, and diversity. That's not what a community is. You go look at the Greek community, you go look at a Muslim community, you go look at an Italian community. It's not about diversity, tolerance. It's about people, a homogenous people, sticking together for the values and the ethics that they believe in. And what's wrong with American people that they don't want to stand up and stick together? They believe the lie of diversity, moderation, and tolerance, and I just don't understand it.
Class, Tony Pichet is with us, and I'm going to give you his phone number. If you'd like to call him at the store, area code 417-501-1054. Area code 417-501-1054. Down to Earth Foods. Down to Earth Foods. Tony Pichet. I'll spell his last name for you. Piche. And we're talking about the parallels between South Africa and the United States, and we're talking about how government is being very sneaky and deceptive and lying and cheating and stealing. And Tony, I want to share this with you. You may not know about this, but the largest television station in by far in the Ozarks got together with the government, and they put on a preparedness expo. They watch ours, the Get Prepared Expo, and they decide they're going to do their own. Okay? Now, what does that mean? So they have the largest television station by far in the Ozarks, and they're running free ads. They're not charging themselves to do ads. They get the venue for free. They get the venue for free. Okay. So they have free advertising. They don't charge themselves to sell parking, so it's free parking, They don't have to pay for parking. They don't have to pay for the advertising. They don't have to pay for the venue. They don't have to pay for radio. Okay, compare that to us. We spend $10,000 on the venue, $10,000 on television advertising, and way over $10,000 on radio advertising. So that's $30,000 for each event. That's just the starting costs. Okay. For each one of our Get Prepared Expos. They can get it all for free. So who do they get? They get FEMA, they get the fire department, they get the law enforcement, they get everybody together, Springfield Emergency Management. They all get together, they have this event, and they let everyone in for free. Okay? So it's all paid for by the taxpayers, right? And then the guests come in for free. All right. Do they invite us? Of course not. And we wouldn't go anyway. Here's what happened. They got the largest advertising agency in Springfield to do it. And what was their turnout? Marginal. Marginal. It was a poorly attended event. And it was absolutely free. What I'm saying, Tony, is they are conning us. We're trying to build community, and the government is conning us. Here's a fire extinguisher, and this is how you point it at a fire, and this is what you do, and, be careful because fires are hot, and ridiculous stuff like that. And then they get the university to build an education program so they can teach you more of that idiotic first grade stuff.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Let's build a community, Tony. What do we do?
Well, Vinny, the first thing we need to do is recognize the position we're in. That as a people, we are highly independent. As a people, we don't trust, some of it with reason. But we need to reevaluate that basics. I had a friend tell me the other day, he said, Tony, the biggest problem why Americans have a disconnect between what you tell them and what you're trying to get them to do is the origins of the country are so different in one sense. I said, well, what is that? He said, well, when America was founded, people hit the coast, they lived there for a while, and then they started to head west. And they did it individually. And years later, when stagecoaches and all that went out, they found the people that had lived out in the West. Some of them, very few, were killed, but by far the vast majority had then built for themselves homesteads, and all these sort of things. So for them to do it on an individual basis is really part of the core of how Americans think. Whereas in South Africa, when the first people came to Southern Africa, there was, outside of the Sand people, which is the coastal Bushmen, there were no black people for the first 1,000 kilometers from the coastline. And when they started to migrate north, send out scouts and all that sort of stuff, they wouldn't come back. So that's why the Great Trek started with caravans of people going out as groups, very tight-knit groups, and every night they'd make a circle called Circling the Wagons, or a lager, L-A-A-G-E-R, and they protect themselves because there were marauding gangs that were living in the wildernesses that would come and rape, plunder, and pillage. And in fact, the first tribes that they met...
Tony, hold that thought. Tony, hold that thought. Tony Pache, USAPrepares.com. We'll be right back. Yeah, class, this is gut-wrenching, but it makes my blood boil. Leon Rosby is 52 years old. He was walking his dog, and he was videotaping a police scene when he was arrested for obstruction of justice. He was videotaping the police. He had his dog with him, a small dog by my standards, and he locked his dog in his car with the windows rolled down. This is in Hawthorne, California. 3 cop cars. 3 cop cars. These cops went to arrest him, and the dog jumped out of the window to come over to his master. The police shot the dog multiple times. They shot this man's dog multiple times because it wanted to know what was going on with its owner. 3 cops, 3 cop cars, and they killed the dog. You ought to see these cops. You ought to see these cops. The post is on the website. It's outrageous. I'm furious. Tony, I can see this happening to us. I can see this kind of stuff happening to us. When the cops come, it's not one, it's not two. Lights flashing. Guns drawn. Tony, I've had these guys show up, 3 cops in front of me, 1 cop behind me, ready to shoot me when I'm unarmed.
It's just part of the intimidation and bullying, that's all. So,
Tony, I got removed from the radio because I talked about this church that called the cops on me. I can see how this is going to happen. Tony, I can see it unfolding in front of my eyes. And I can guarantee you, I can guarantee you that people will be watching from across the street, all different corners of the street, saying, look at that. Look at that. But nobody's doing anything about it.
Well, the society has been suppressed on purpose. They've been told not to stand up, leave it to the police. People get stabbed on sidewalks and people walk over them. It's all part of the conditioning. It's done on purpose. This intimidation is purposeful. But yet, if you shoot a police dog, it's like shooting a police officer. So, yet it's the frog and the boiling in the pot, Vinny.
Tony. These cops, I don't think, are thinking about the end game. And here's what I mean by that.
No, they're thinking about the paycheck and job security.
That's right. And in the long run, we are going to remember who was nice to us, and we're going to remember who shot our dogs. We're going to know who threw us up against the wall, and we're going to know who beat us up. And we're going to remember that. And then, cops, I want you to think about this. Think about this. Do you think when you're alone and your family's alone and everything breaks down and society breaks down, you're going to be safe from all those people that you arrested and ticketed and beat up and jailed? You think you're going to be safe from all those innocent people that got the force end of that nightstick or the taser? Do you think they're not going to remember? Think about that. Knock it off. Leave us alone. We didn't cause these problems. Tony talked about circling wagons.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought in that break there.
Tony, I'm sorry. Sometimes I just lose my temper. I'm looking at these images of these cops.
Early this morning.
Tony, there's a cop there. He's ready to draw his gun, right? That's the same image of this cop standing right in front of me. Same dark uniform, same gun, same handcuffs, same taser, the same kind of look that I had standing just a couple feet away from me. These guys are ready to shoot me. 3 of them in front of me, 1 of them behind me, and the guy behind me was there in case the first 3 missed.
Yep. Well, even the color of the uniforms, Vinny, I mean, it's subtle. They went from grays and blues, which are passive type colors, to black, which is an intimidating type color. So it's, it goes way back. The training has changed, but it's so subtle that unfortunately the police don't even realize it's happening to them. But it's choices. People choose to do that, and they choose to abide by it. But the people just need to wake up. Wake up, make a plan. It's that simple.
I'm looking at this man's window in his vehicle. You can see right through it because it's tinted. It's in California, but it's not so tinted that you can't see through it. The cop cars, they've got a much, much, much darker tint on their windows. Yeah, you try to pull that off on a civilian window, you'll probably be cited and ticketed and forced to go to court for having windows that are too dark. But no, they can have them. Okay, Tony, so we circle the wagons. As we ventured out from going the white people that lived along the coast of Africa, and if they went into the past their area, they would be killed, right? They just wouldn't, unless they were in numbers, right?
The point I was getting at, thank you for bringing me back on track here. The point I was getting at is the people that were doing it as individuals in America, they mostly got away with it and they were okay. The people that are doing it as individuals in Africa were never heard of again. And as a result of that, when the troubles came in mid-Africa, in southern Africa in the 80s, the only groups that sort of resisted this rolling mass actions when busloads of 10,000, 50,000, 80,000 people were bussed in under the disguise of a rolling mass action, the only groups that survived being taken out were those that stood together in their neighborhoods and communities. But in America, it has been one of the most difficult things for me to try and get people to see, is that you need to stick together. And this friend, who actually happens to be one of the good police officers, he explained this to me. And he said to me, Tony, that's exactly the reason. He's an ex-Marine, a well-read guy. I respect him. And he's a police officer, one of the good guys. And there are a few. His synopsis was spot on. But now how do we change that? How do we get folks to just look and say, this is not how it was? This is not how it's going to be. You have to do whatever you have to do to try and get a community to stand up and stick together, and not have abuse of power overtake you so that you just succumb and be bullied. I've read all the comments about this article with the dog, for example, that the guy could have done a better job of securing it and so on, and that he was playing loud music as if trying to provoke the police. Those are, for me, are all fringe things. The police, if they were in a passive mode, could have tasered the dog. There's a whole bunch of things they could have done. But just because of their training is to first shoot to kill and ask questions later or cover up later. And it's exactly like South Africa was accused by the world. Shoot first, ask questions later. Well, that's exactly what's happening in this country. And
the people who are involved
is the media is with this government. The media was against us when we were in South Africa. That's the difference.
The media, say that again, Tony, please.
The media is with this government and their bullying. The media in Southern Africa was against the government at the time and turned on them and said it's a police state and all of that. Yeah, people are succumbing because the media keep it silent. So the media are siding with whatever the government is doing, which is they're retraining people through colleges, they're retraining people at police colleges. The old guard in the police force recognize this, but there's nothing they can do about it.
Tony, those are exactly the points. You summed it up when I talked about Drury University with their emergency management training degree. That's part of it. The police that come in mass, not one. It's not like one guy videotaping the police and one cop shows up. They show up in mass, and they
make an example of one to intimidate the mass. It's a socialist way. It works.
And they're doing a great job of it. They really are. And Tony, you're right. There are some good cops. I know a couple.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what. I don't know anybody who drives along that doesn't hit the brakes when they see a cop car. I don't know anybody.
Oh, that's true, because of the intimidation. But you see, what do we do as a community? Do we accept this?
No.
Or do we do what they're starting to do in Egypt, is say enough is enough and stand up and rise up?
Let's stand up. Let's stand up right now. Let's stand up and say enough is enough.
I have been doing that. And people say to me, well, Tony, why aren't you doing more? I said, well, why don't you get off your ass and do some more? Because you're an American. I'm a naturalized American. And I'm seeing what's coming and standing up for what the values and what I see, which is right is right and wrong is wrong. And a bully's a bully. And I do support the underdog. I believe everybody has a right to be exercised. And if the bullies refuse to have the little man say he's right, I stand up for the little guy. So I believe I am doing my part. But the vast majority of Americans, including the prepper group, are not. They're coming, they're taking information, they're filing the information, but they are not translating it into anything. Vinny, I've said this in your group, I'm saying this now again on the radio. People need to just meet together and discuss what to do. Build these communities, and I don't care if it's a tight-knit community. Stand for the things you stand for. And stop believing just the radio talks. Stop believing me. Just find out what it is you value, what it is stop believing you. Find out what your ethics are, what you stand for, and then stand. Don't let them intimidate you. Don't let them come on top of you, because silence is going to be assimilated.
Tony, what you're saying, I'm listening to every word, and I'm thinking about the expo. You know, we only had 6,000 people come to Expo number 5. I'm sorry, Expo number 4 on Saturday, and 6,000 on Sunday. Expo number 5 had about a 25% decrease. There was an expo in Denver. It's called the Doomsday Expo. On Saturday, they had 30 people. 30 people. What the heck is going on? What's going on? Class, take a stand, take them out of your pocket, grow a set, whatever you have to do. Let's stand up for what's right now. Well, I just called the city of Hawthorne, California during the commercial break. I'm going to give you the mayor's name, and I'm going to give you his phone number. I think you ought to call him and tell him that whatever you think. I'm outraged that the police would shoot this dog. Now, if enough of us call him, there's going to be a problem for the city. I'm going to give you the mayor's name, Daniel Juarez. Daniel, Juarez. Daniel Juarez, Juarez. And his phone number at City Hall, Hawthorne, California, 310-349-2910. 310-349-2910. 310-349-2910. Give him a call. Tell him whatever you think. I'm going to post his name and number on the website for the article. Let's say, cops shoot and kill dog. Arrest and jail the cops. I'm going to put his number and name right there on the website so you can find it. Tony, I guess that's what we're talking about, standing up, right?
Well, in the context of being a community, not just, you can't fight the conventional system of the government, even as a group. Waco attests to that. But if you were a decentralized and yet still homogenous people that stood up collectively and individually, you can see exactly how you can paralyze a nation. That's exactly what Egypt is doing. 17 million to 21 million of a country of 100 million, and mostly youth, by the way, are standing against a country. And people need to stand up, and be part of a collective people that stand for the ideals and values of what the Independence Week is all about, Vinny, and not believe the lie of happy holidays like you mentioned at the beginning of the show. This is, in terms of a non-religious holiday, this is a very important holiday for all Americans. This is not about Aztlan, the Mexican America. This is about the independence, where the British fought the British and ended up becoming Americans. And it's very important to remember that. This is the foundation. Forget what your schools or whatever else teaches you. This is really the foundation of what America stands for. And the documents that came out of this, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, things we had to study to become citizens, are very important documents. And guess what? The one thing they hate, the new America hates, is the God written in those documents. The God that the founding fathers held very highly. They hate it. And anything that hates God today is being promoted by this administration and the previous one, I might add. And that sort of stuff needs to be the foundational values need to be taken up. People, when they sit and give thanks at Thanksgiving or give homage to those that died for the independence of America today, need to ponder the history that is behind this country and stand up for the things that it stood for, that it no longer stands for. Man, if I could stand on a hill and say that and get people to rise up and go their own separate ways and talk to their neighbors, and when people stand up from the crowd, you become a target. Well, so what? Okay, if you're not afraid to die because you know where you're going, and I'm one of those, then stand up. Quite simple.
Tony, last night before the meetup, I thought about something that I was going to say, something I've never said before, and here's what it is. I did not say this. But I wanted to say, I want you to think about people who you really loved who are no longer with us, people who have passed on.
Right.
And think about what their reaction would be if they saw what was going on in this country right now. The surveillance, the wiretapping, the treasonous, traitorous acts by the governments, by people not standing up for what's right and wrong. How would they feel? How would those loved ones feel? My father would be furious.
Yep.
Tony Pichet, you can call him 417-501-1054, 417-501-1054 at the store. Class, you can meet him at the Get Prepared Expo, July 19, 20, and 21. 3-day pass, $18. Thank you, Tony. Above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.